Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are heading north. And I don't just mean, put on a sweater north.
No.
I mean, pack your best raincoat and prepare for your jaw to hit the floor north.
Right.
We are looking at a place that is often called the Pearl of the Norwegian Fjords. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's arguably the most famous fjord in the world.
It really is the postcard image of Norway, isn't it? If you close your eyes and I say the word fjord, you're seeing these steep cliffs, emerald green water.
Maybe a little ferry chugging along.
And cascading waterfalls, that mental image. It's almost certainly Geiranger.
Exactly. It's the archetype. But here's the thing that really grabbed me when I was going through this stack of research for this. We see it today as this pristine, luxurious holiday destination, right?
Good place to relax.
Yeah, you go there to relax. But the history of this place is defined by absolutely brutal conditions. I mean, survival there used to be a daily physical struggle against gravity itself.
That is the central paradox of this place. What we think of as a luxury escape today was, for centuries, a place of extreme isolation and hardship.
And that's really the mission of this deep dive.
It is. We want to understand how this isolated, dangerous terrain transformed into a global tourism hotspot, and honestly, what that massive popularity means for its future.
Because there's a lot of tension bubbling under the surface of that, deep blue water.
A lot.
So we've got a huge stack of sources today. We're pulling from brochures from the World Heritage Visitor Center, historical articles about the regions, transition from farming to tourism.
We've also got scientific reports on cruise ship pollution, which is a surprisingly heated topic.
And even some travel guides for hiking and local folklore.
It is a wide range, which is great because it gives us the full picture. We aren't just looking at the pretty view, we're looking at the geology, the economy, and, the ecology.
So let's unpack this. First, we have to start with the name itself, Geiranger. It sounds cool, very Viking, but does it actually mean anything?
It does. It comes from Old Norse, which is always a good place to start with Norwegian names. It's a combination of geir, which means spear, and enger,
Which means fjord.
which means fjord. So literally spear fjord.
Spear fjord. That paints a pretty clear picture.
It does. It likely refers to the shape. It's long, narrow, and tapered, cutting deep into the land like a spearhead. And that shape is crucial to understanding what life was like there. You have to imagine the verticality of this landscape.
Right. The mountains aren't just high, they're steep walls.
They plunge directly into the deep water.
And for a long, long time, the water was the only way to get around, right? The only highway.
Precisely. There were no roads for centuries. If you lived there in, say, the 19th century, you weren't driving to the next town, you were rowing. And if you weren't rowing, you were climbing.
This brings me to one of the most insane details I found. We need to talk about the fjord farms.
Oh, yes.
I think when most people imagine farming, they picture, rolling green fields.
Maybe attractive.
But here, we're talking about agriculture on a cliff edge.
Yes, the fjord farms. Places like Skageflow and Nifsflow. These farms are perched on these narrow, grassy ledges, sometimes 250 meters straight up above the water.
250 meters, that's, what, a 70-story skyscraper?
Roughly, yeah.
Imagine trying to grow potatoes on the roof of the skyscraper, but without a railing.
And without an elevator. The land was so scarce they utilized every single square meter of soil they could find. They carried everything up and down on their backs. But here's where it gets really, honestly a little terrifying.
I know what you're going to say, the rope.
The rope.
I read this and I had to stop and reread it. It said that on farms like Skageflow, the parents would actually tether their small children with ropes when they were playing outside.
It wasn't a punishment, it was a survival strategy. Because if a toddler stumbled while chasing a goat,
They wouldn't just scrape a knee.
they would fall off the cliff.
That is just. It really puts things into perspective. Today, people pay thousands of dollars to stand on the deck of a cruise ship, look up at those cliffs and say, oh, look how romantic and quaint that farm is.
But for the people living there, it wasn't a view. It was a workplace where you had to tie up your kids so they wouldn't fall off the edge of the world. It really speaks to the incredible resilience required to survive there.
So how do we get from tethering toddlers to massive floating hotels? When did that switch flip?
It started earlier than you might think. We have records of the first true tourists arriving around 1869. It was a wealthy British family, the Backhouses, on a yacht called the Nereid.
And I love the description of the locals' reaction to them. It sounds like an alien encounter.
It was total cultural bafflement. You have these farmers working these brutal cliffs, sweating to keep their sheep alive, and suddenly these wealthy British people show up. They aren't trading goods, they aren't fishing for food, they are just staring.
The sources say the locals thought they did nothing useful.
Right. They were picking flowers and staring at waterfalls. To a subsistence farmer, that is absurd behavior. But there was one local farmer who saw an opportunity. Martinius Smerek.
The first entrepreneur.
He realized that even if he didn't understand why they were there, these people needed somewhere to sleep. So in 1869, he turned his barn into a guest house.
A barn.
A literal barn. It wasn't luxury yet. In fact, he kept sheep and pigs on the side in the same building because he wasn't sure this whole tourism thing would last.
He was hedging his bets.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the hotel, mind the sheep. But it wasn't just eccentric Brits for long. The region got a massive boost from a major celebrity.
The ultimate influencer of the 19th century, Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany.
We tend to think of influencers as people on Instagram, but this guy was the emperor.
He was arguably the biggest celebrity of his day in Europe. He visited Geiranger in 1890 with his royal yacht, and he completely fell in love with it. Said the air calmed his nerves. He returned nearly every summer until World War I broke out.
And when the Kaiser goes somewhere...
everyone else wants to go there too.
Exactly. He put Geiranger on the map for the European elite. Suddenly, it wasn't just hikers. It was royalty and wealthy industrialists.
And that demand is what finally drove the infrastructure. You can't have an emperor hiking up a muddy goat track.
That's when the roads came in.
Yes.
Yes. The Geiranger Road was completed in 1889, and much later, the Eagle Road, the Ernavagen, in 1954. These are engineering marvels themselves. Hairpin turns, switchbacks carved right into the rock face.
So it went from a dead end to a destination.
Perfectly put.
Now, when people get there today, there are certain things everyone looks for. The legends, we have to talk about the waterfalls.
The Seven Sisters and the Suder, you literally cannot miss them if you are on a boat. They face each other across the fjord.
And the legend is pretty classic folklore, isn't it?
It is. The story goes that the Suder, that's the waterfall on one side, was trying to woo the Seven Sisters on the other side.
He proposed to them.
One by one, and they all rejected him. Every single one.
So the sisters turned into these beautiful, graceful waterfalls, and the suitor, he turned into a waterfall shaped like a bottle.
Because he took to drinking.
To cope with the rejection. It's a bit tragic, really. And if you look at the Suder Fall, the rock formation actually splits the water so it looks just like the neck and body of a bottle.
It's a great story. But I found a funny modern twist in one of our sources. A travel blogger mentioned this rumor about why the Seven Sisters sometimes dry up in the summer.
Oh, I saw that. It's not hydrology, it's a labor dispute.
Exactly. The rumor is that the sisters work so hard looking good in the spring that they just take a summer break.
I love that. It adds a bit of personality to the geology. And it's a nice way to explain to tourists why the falls might be a trickle in July. But speaking of geology, the visitor center, the Norsk Fjord Center, does a great job grounding these myths in science, especially for kids.
Yeah, they have characters like Georgie Nice.
A little rock creature, and Mother Mantle, who explains how the fjord was born. It's clever.
And for the adults, there is the waterfall walk, the Fossavandring.
It's a highlight. It's not just a path. It's 327 steps leading up from the fjord, right alongside the Storfossen waterfall. You get absolutely drenched.
327 steps.
Yeah.
That's a workout.
It is, but it gives you that visceral sense of the power of the water. You hear the roar, you feel the vibration.